So unit economics is really a useful tool that you can use, and we'll touch a little bit on it today, but there's not much time, so we'll do it more in the course itself. But it's a tool you can actually use to reach that point where you're no longer dependent on investors. Okay, or at least you're in that right path to be there, and you know how to get there, right? And if you don't know how to get there, you don't understand unit economics, VCs will not invest in you, by the way. Even in seed stage or early stage, investors will ask you questions about unit economics, about lifetime value, about customer acquisition costs, about churn rates and all that stuff, just so they know that you have a map in your head on how to reach sustainability financially, right? And in a world like today where investors are more conservative and money is tighter, that's key. So unit economics essentially is a way for you to get economic indicators that would suggest a sustainable growth path. So it doesn't mean that right now you're independent from external investors, but it means you're on the right path. Okay. And you'll know when you reach that spot where you don't have to rely on external investors anymore. And as I said, it's really complex to understand recurring revenue when it comes to unit economics versus physical products. Now, a typical recurring revenue type of deal looks like this. There is some sort of expense you have to incur to attract customers, let's say $6,000 that you spend either on ads or on an expo that you went to, whatever that is. And now you have a customer, let's say, that's paying you $500 a month. That's how SaaS or recurring revenue models work. Now, as I said, the most important thing you should know how to do is monetize your customers and increase the revenue per customer over time. So if you start at 500, you better grow to 550 and 600 for these customers. You should know how to monetize them and not just stay at 500, okay? That's monetization that will have the biggest impact on your growth. 2 is retention. So the longer they stay, the more value you get from your customers, right? If they leave after 2 months versus 2 years, you get more value out of 2 years, right? So the longer they stay, the better. That's retention. That's the second most impactful thing you can do for your growth. And the third most important is user acquisition. So once you know how to monetize and retain your customers, you should spend more money to attract new customers. But not before. What many people do once they get their hands on a bit of money, they spend it on user acquisition, only to figure out that customers leave after 2 months and they pay $200 and not $500, right? And then you have to come back to your investors without reaching your goals and ask for more money, which will not happen, and you will shut down. All right, so you better understand monetization, retention, and then user acquisition. And now lifetime value, which is the kind of the first pillar of unit economics. I don't know how much time I have, but lifetime value means the total value you will gain from your customers during the entire time that they stay with you before they leave or churn. Okay, that's lifetime value. But the question is, what's the value you get from a customer that pays recurring revenue? Is it the revenue? For example, if I'm Zoom, what's the value that they get from the customers? Is it the monthly payment? It's not really. It's the gross profit. And if you don't know a little bit about economics, the gross profit is simply the revenue minus the cost of goods sold. And for Zoom, it's just a hosting cost, by the way. But if you're in Uber, for example, which we'll show in this slide, the drivers are the cost of goods sold. They have to pay the driver for getting you from point A to point B, and they're left with the $250 out of the $10 ride. So the $10 is the revenue, the cost of goods sold is the $750 paid to the driver, and the $250 they keep as gross profit. That's the value they get from that ride.